Okay, let's dive in. Normally, when we do these deep dives, we're usually getting into the weeds with betting strategies, right? Or algorithms, data analysis. But today, we're taking a bit of a detour, a fun one, I think, into the weird. We're exploring the really quirky, kind of ridiculous, sometimes just bizarre side of the betting world, specifically looking at some of the absolute strangest proposition bets that sportsbooks have actually offered. Now, you're probably familiar with a prop bet, right? It's a wager on something specific inside a game. Stuff that doesn't necessarily decide the final score, like, will the first score in the Super Bowl be a touchdown? Or how many yards will the quarterback throw? This makes sense. They're, logical, calculable, even. But then there's this other kind, the ones that make you just stop and stare and kind of think, why? Why would a serious sports book offer odds on something so out there? I'm really curious about how that even works.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that they might look completely absurd, just bonkers. But there's usually a very clear strategic reason behind it. It's not always about making a ton of money from that specific bet. It's often much more about getting people talking,
Mm.
creating buzz.
Ah,
That's
well,
actually pretty clever, sometimes brilliant, really. We can definitely pull back the curtain on that.
Yeah. And we've got some amazing examples lined up for you. Just wait. We're talking things like a long-running bet on the Loch Ness monster being found. Seriously. Or super detailed bets on the UK royal babies. I mean, really detailed. And even, get this, a bet tied to the Mayan calendar end of the world thing back in 2012. So our mission today is to figure out the why. What's the motivation for these crazy sounding bets, and what do they tell us about the betting world itself? Maybe about us too. Okay, so one example that really made me pause was this Irish bookmaker. For years, they consistently offered odds on whether the Loch Ness monster would be officially sighted. I mean, just imagine being the person setting the odds for that. How do you even begin? Is it based on grainy photos online, lake conditions, old legends? And it wasn't just a one-off joke bet. It was there for years, a standing offer.
That right there perfectly shows the core problem for odds makers with these kinds of
Yeah.
things. You've got an event with zero hard data, absolutely none. So they have to throw out the usual statistical models, the algorithms.
Right.
You're not looking at past performance or anything like that. You're basically trying to put a price on, well, on a cultural myth.
Yeah.
You're gauging public interest, maybe skepticism. How unlikely does it feel to people?
And it wasn't just Nessie, right? Pop culture stuff was huge for this. Remember all the hype around the UK royal babies? Bookies didn't just take bets on, boy or girl or the name. That seems almost normal now. No, they had odds on the baby's hair color, who the godparents would be, even the exact time of birth.
hmm
It turned this huge news story into a massive global guessing game.
And that really taps into the bigger picture, doesn't it? It shows how good these markets are at plugging into whatever everyone's talking about, these cultural moments, public moods. They take something you might just passively read about, celebrity news, whatever, and make it active, engaging. It kind of draws people in, makes them feel involved.
Yeah, you have a stake in it, even if it's tiny. Okay, so if those show the cultural side, this next one, this really pushes the limits. A bet offered around the Mayan calendar predictions for 2012, the whole end of the world thing.
Yeah.
You could literally bet money on whether humanity would, cease to exist. The odds were, as you'd expect, insane, billions to one, something like that. But people still placed bets, which is fascinating. What's the angle for the sports book there? Is it just pure silliness?
Well, this is where it gets really clever from a marketing standpoint. It might seem silly, but it's strategic. These kinds of bets, the really headline-grabbing ones, they're not primarily designed for profit on that wager. I mean, think about the liability if the world actually ended, right? Though obviously highly unlikely.
Right, payout would be tricky.
Yeah. No, the real value is the buzz, the free publicity it generates. It's invaluable. These things get shared on social media like crazy. They pop up in news articles. Heck, they get talked about in deep dives like this one. And that's what marketers call earned media. It's not an ad they paid for. It feels organic. People talk about it naturally. And that kind of publicity is often way more powerful, more credible than a straightforward advertisement.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, so we see the marketing angle, the buzz factor for the sports book. But thinking about these completely wild bets, it still makes you wonder about the other side. Why do people actually put money down, especially on something like the Mayan bet, where the odds are just astronomical?
Yeah, it's tapping into something different, I think, than your standard bet on a football game. For a lot of people placing these bets, it's probably less about a serious expectation of winning big money. It's more about, well, maybe wish fulfillment. or just being part of a shared moment, you know?
Like buying a lottery ticket for a massive jackpot.
Sort of, yeah. Or just the novelty. Being able to say you had a bet on the end of the world, it's entertainment. It's a story to tell. The cost of the bet is just like the price of that little bit of fun, that anecdote.
Conversation starter.
Exactly. And for the sports book, there's another benefit. These fun, easy-to-understand bets, they attract new people.
Mm.
Someone might be intimidated by point spreads or complex odds, but they get a bet on, say, a reality TV show outcome.
Mm.
It lowers the barrier to entry, makes the whole betting thing feel less serious, more accessible, more fun.
It really does make you spare a thought for the poor odds maker, though. The
Yeah.
person who actually has to price some of these things. Like, if you had to set odds right now on whether we'll confirm intelligent alien life next year, where do you even start?
Haha. Yeah, it's a unique skill set, for sure. You're definitely not running statistical regressions on alien sightings.
No kidding.
Instead, the odds makers almost become like cultural readers, barometers of public mood.
Yeah.
They're looking at social media trends, what's big in the news cycle, maybe even what movies are coming out.
Right.
They're trying to gauge public fascination, belief, skepticism. It's about pricing the novelty as much as anything else.
So less math, more intuition and media scanning.
A lot of it, yeah. Plus sheer educated guesswork, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the house is cut, the commission that's usually built into the odds. It tends to be quite high on these types of bets.
Okay.
Partly because the risk is genuinely hard to calculate, but also because they know they're selling something more than just odds. They're
Yeah.
selling that talking point, that bit of fun. So, yeah, while the profit on each individual bet might not be the main goal, the real win for the sportsbook isn't that direct profit. It's the massive wave of free publicity, the brand recognition, the new customers it brings in. It cuts down their marketing costs elsewhere.
So the takeaway here seems pretty clear. Next time you're scrolling online and you see a sports book offering odds on something utterly insane, like, who will be the first person to walk on Mars, or maybe predicting a plot twist in a superhero movie, don't just dismiss it as pure silliness. Well, you can laugh, but also see it for what it is. It's actually a pretty sharp marketing tactic, a really creative way to grab attention, engage people, and it kind of reminds us that the betting world can be just as weird and honestly just as strategically interesting as the world itself.
Absolutely. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Thinking beyond betting, what other things do we see or engage with, maybe even daily, that seem irrational or absurd on the surface, but are actually, underneath it all, quite brilliant strategic moves designed purely to capture our attention or change how we perceive something? Makes you think, doesn't it?